Okay, so let's say we wanted to see how well students' relationship with their teachers predicted their overall college GPA. So their relationship in high school to their college GPA. We would grab this variable first. I did a Control C or Control Command C, I think, on a Mac. And let me just go to a spreadsheet here. And then I'm just pasting. Alternatively, if you're on a PC, you could do a right click. Notice it does take a while to show up there. That's pretty normal with the data set of this size. And we get our GPA. So let me show you here if I right click, or I believe that's a command click on the Mac, and I copy that. And then I go over to sports, I paste that. And after I paste them, the first thing I want to do is check, make sure I got all the data. So I'm going all the way over here, grabbing that and just dragging it down. Don't scroll through, this will take you a long time. I want to make sure I have about 16,200 data points here. It's actually 197 data points, I guess. But that looks right. If either one of these is blank, it means you didn't give the computer enough time to work, so just grab it again and give it plenty of time to paste in there. So then we go back up to the top here. What we want to do before we sort is we want to freeze these top two columns. So if we go to View, Freeze, two rows, that way when we scroll and especially when we sort, we're not going to mess that up. So notice here in the student relations, we have all kinds of numbers. We could click on that column, explore it, maybe take a peek at what that looks like. Maybe it'll take us too long here. Well, even if we can't get the graphs here, we can see that our minimum is -9, our max is 2.332. If we go to the code book, we'll see that this is essentially a z-score. So these negatives like this is a legitimate, means they're 1.5 standard deviations below the mean, but it's a legitimate value. Whereas this -9 is actually missing data, and we need to get rid of any student with missing data. So if we sort that here, it'll put everything in order. Now all the -9s and other missing data will be floating to the top. Notice I select that row 3, and not just this point, but I clicked on that 3 to select the entire row. I'm then dragging this down, keeping my eyes on the -8, -9, 4. So the -4 is also missing data, starting with this -3.817. That's where the actual data kicks in, and you can check that in the code book. If I now hold down the Shift key as I click on the row with my final missing data point, I should highlight everything in between row 3 and that final row. I want to right click on a PC, or I think command click on a Mac. You may want to double check on the Mac there. And I want to delete all these rows, not just the numbers. I want to delete the entire rows, because if the student is missing data on the first thing, I can't really use them in a correlation. Okay, go over here now to the overall college GPA. Sort this in a similar way. Again, click on that 3, scroll down. Okay, so the 0 is where it starts. Hold down Shift there, click, and I'm going to delete those rows. And now what I may do is just click on this. My min is -3.817, max is 2.332. So those are both the correct range that I should be looking for. Here I'm going from 0 to 4 for a GPA scale. That makes sense. Now I could make a choice whether or not to include the zeros, because what would that mean if you have an overall college GPA of 0? Maybe it means they dropped out immediately. Maybe it means something else. That's a decision I would have to think about a little bit to decide whether or not to take out all those students with a 0 GPA. But let's leave them in for now. So now I have the two columns. If I want to insert my scatter plot, just go to Insert, Scatter, and I'm also going to go to Customization so I can put the trend line on. The reason I'm looking at the scatter plot here also is to make sure that I got all the missing data. So I'm looking for negatives that really jump out beyond what the acceptable range is. And here, these are all lining up nicely. I add the trend line, show my R squared, and then I insert. And all of this, depending on your computer speed, could take several minutes. Again, you could do it in Excel. So we do see there that we have an R squared of 8.394, and this E means times 10 to the power of -3. In other words, to get the number, I would move my decimal 3 places to the left. So 1, 2, 3. So my R squared is actually 0.008 there. And I could also get the correlation here. That would be 0.09. And if I double check, if I square this number here, so I raise it to the power of 2, I should get the same number that I got in my R squared here. And indeed, I do. Once I move that decimal 3 to the left, I do get that. So what is this telling me overall? I have a positive trend line here. It's a weak effect, very weak effect, but the effect that I do have, or the correlation that I do have, I should say, not a cause, is students who had better relationship with teachers. The better the relationship with teacher in high school, the better their GPA was overall in college. Not surprising necessarily. Perhaps the more surprising thing is that the relationship there is so weak, it's almost non-existent.